Welcome to the Playbook for Amazon podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lieber, and the goal of this podcast is to share what's working today that's helping my company, Turnkey Product Management, sell over 8 figures per year on Amazon for our clients. We will share with you the actionable steps, systems, and playbook that you can plug into your business to boost your sales on Amazon. Let's go. Hey guys, today we have a very special episode. We have a guest host. It is Jenna Lieber. She is one of the top client managers here at Turnkey. And today she's going to be sharing some of what we know about the A9 ranking algorithm that Amazon uses to help determine what products are going to rank at the top of the search results on Amazon. And thus, those products typically get the lion's share of the sales. And so it's important to know what those factors and variables are so that you can use that to your advantage and try to rank your products higher and get more and more sales organically, right? So we're going to be talking about everything that we know about it, and hopefully it will help your guys' business a ton. So enjoy this episode with Jenna.
Hey guys, it's Jenna Lieber, the Client Services Director here at Turnkey Product Management. I'm going to be filling in for Jeff today on this episode of Playbook for Amazon. So today we are going to be talking about Amazon's A9 algorithm. So Amazon's A9 algorithm is essentially how Amazon determines what is going to show up when a customer searches a given keyword or keyword phrase. So this is essentially how we are ranking, right? This is how Amazon is determining if you are showing up on page 1 and how you are ranking for a given category. You know, it's really tough to say this is how Amazon determines this, or this is how Amazon determines that. Because at the end of the day, the Amazon A9 algorithm is taking into consideration so many different things. It's actually crazy. Right? So because there's just so many things that are involved with how you're ranking, how you're showing up for Amazon's A9 algorithm, we decided to break it down really into 3 different categories. And from those categories, we really just kind of listed out those different pieces or those different factors that determine how successful you are with Amazon's A9 algorithm. So the first thing really that Amazon is looking for is your conversion rate. So these obviously include factors like sales, rank, customer reviews, price, and obviously many, many more things, right? Another thing that is considered when it comes to Amazon's A9 algorithm is the customer satisfaction and retention, right? So, factors that aid into this is like your seller feedback, for example, your low order defect rate, a bunch of different things. Essentially what Amazon is looking for is, are you selling products and are you making customers happy within that process? And then lastly, Amazon is obviously considering your relevancy. So, basically is this factor tells Amazon, if your product page is relevant to the search terms that are being put into the search bar, right? So as far as breaking down each section, let's kind of start with the conversion rate, right? So one thing Amazon is for sure looking for, this is kind of their number one thing, is they're looking for that Amazon's bestseller ranking badge, right? So that is incredibly important. You guys all already know that's really important for a few reasons, right? Not just even for, not even just for ranking reasons, but obviously customers are drawn to that badge, right? They see Amazon giving people that badge and they're drawn to it. So that is one thing Amazon is for sure looking at, is just that bestseller ranking badge and really driving people there. The next thing that Amazon is looking at is customer reviews. So the number of product reviews you receive and then just the quality of those reviews is incredibly important when it comes to your ranking. So obviously, it's not just about the number, it's the positive reviews as well, right? So if you have 500 reviews and all 500 are terrible, that doesn't mean anything, right? So it's important to not only get a good quantity of reviews, but also a good amount of quality reviews, right? It is really important to Amazon's A9 algorithm, and it really does help when it comes to your ranking. So one way here at Turnkey we're trying to help people with this is we have developed a review accelerator. Using that review accelerator, you can essentially learn different review strategies that we are using internally here at Turnkey that have really helped increase our reviews for our full service clients. So, as far as another thing that Amazon is considering with customer reviews is, are you responding to those reviews? So it is important that you are responding to those customers, trying to make it right. Amazon is able to see that and is able to determine, if you really did make that right. Another thing that Amazon actually looks at, and this is something that's always really interesting to talk about with people, is answered questions, right? So you guys have seen those questions that show up on listings. So Amazon is basically like taking into consideration just how many Q&As you have and how many of those Q&As you have answered. So quite honestly, we have an internal system here to make sure that Q&As are getting answered every single day. I highly recommend that if you don't have a task or a system to make sure that those Q&As are being answered, that you implement one as soon as possible, because Amazon's not only monitoring how many Q&As do you have, but if you are answering them, right? Because at the end of the day, they don't want to drive someone to a listing where no questions are being answered, right? So it is really important that you are answering questions and you're taking all of that into consideration. Another thing that's really important in this category is your images and the quality of your images. If you are not able to zoom into your images as if they are too small, Amazon actually will kind of, take that in consideration for your ranking, and it might dock you down a little bit. So these images should be 1,000 pixels or larger in height and width. And, basically as far as what the smallest one possibly could be, it'd be 500 pixels. But customers need to be able to zoom in and out for a closer view. So if Amazon's picking up that you have low quality images, they're not going to send customers to your listing because they don't want to have a bad impression of themselves, right? At the end of the day, Amazon is looking out for the customer always as their first priority. Also, of course, this is pretty obvious, but price is super important. So, Amazon will predict a lower conversion rate on your listing and use that rate until real data corrects it. So if your competitors have a much lower price point than you, Amazon's going to predict that your conversion rate is going to be lower than that, right? So it is important that you do have competitive pricing, that your pricing does make sense, so you can definitely take advantage just of that opportunity when it comes to ranking, right? There's also parent-child skews. So Amazon's basically checking out, if there is a parent-child SKU functionality, do you guys have products in there that are a mix? That will help with customer reviews, obviously, but it also takes the guessing work out of purchasing the product. Another thing that they look at is time on page and bounce rate. So that's the amount of time a customer spends on your listing, and then how interested they are in your product, and then when they leave. Amazon does look at that. So they look at the time that customer spent on the page and when they left that page. And then they also, and this is something we talked to all of you guys about through coaching and everything like that, they look for product listing completeness, right? So every single section in your back end and in the front end of your listing should be filled out. And that's just because Amazon does take that pretty big into consideration, just like how you are perceived and how you are ranking for Amazon's A9 algorithm. Now let's go ahead and just dive into customer satisfaction and retention rate. What are those factors there? So negative seller feedback, right? So if you are not asking for seller feedback, you guys 100% should. There's a lot that goes into play with this, just beyond ranking. To be eligible for lightning deals or 7-day deals, you have to have seller feedback coming in, or else you will not be eligible for those deals. All negative feedback counts against you equally in terms of product search results. So your feedback rating is incredibly important when it comes to showing up on Amazon's A9 algorithm. So it's really important that you are monitoring your seller feedback, removing seller feedback that is not true seller feedback, and making sure that is always cleaned up. Order processing speed. So this is really if you're FBM, right? But, just making sure your shipments are going out fast and accurately, really just trying to diminish any of those complaints from customers about that. In stock rate. So are you always in stock, or are you always going out of stock? Amazon's A9 algorithm is going to look into that. They want to make sure that the products are in stock when they're sending customers there. And if you're always out of stock, they are going to definitely dock you a few points for that as well. Perfect order percentage. So sellers who achieve a higher percentage of perfect orders will rank higher because they're giving the customer a better experience, right? So just making sure you have that. Order defect rate. So if a customer makes a claim against an order, that is considered an order defect. So obviously this comes in like returns, things like that. So when you guys have a lower order defect rate, that it shows well for Amazon's A9 algorithm, because truthfully, that's incredibly important when it comes to just showing up for Amazon's A9 algorithm, right? So they want to make sure they're giving customers the best customer experience. They are going to send those people to people that have a less defect rate, right? Also exit rate. So how often does a customer view your listing and then exit Amazon.com? Amazon takes that really seriously. It's actually really funny. But these are also metrics that are not necessarily on a report, right, in the back end. And that's what's also really interesting about Amazon's A9 algorithm is this isn't necessarily something that every single seller can see. But, it is something you guys should always be considering. And a lot of things go into play, right? So like exit rate, for example, yes, that's not a report, but that is something that you do have control of, right? And that is basically if you have a quality listing, customers aren't going to be doing that exit rate situation. They're not going to be going on your listing and then exiting Amazon.com. So having quality images, having quality sales copy, answering customers' questions, doing all those things, right? All these little things add up and really determine your fate when it comes to Amazon's A9 algorithm. Now, the last factor that we talked about, the last category per se, was relevancy, right? Are you relevant for that product? So essentially what Amazon does is it determines if your item is relevant for that search term. And if you're not relevant, then you cannot rank. This is important for really keyword research, guys, right? So if you guys are not doing keyword research before writing your sales copy, you guys are 100% missing out. At the end of the day, we need to have these keywords and these phrases weaved into our sales copy, into our title, into our product description. It needs to be weaved in there or else you're not relevant. Straight up, you're just not relevant for Amazon, right? So it is really important that you're taking advantage of those opportunities. So, and that even goes beyond what's showing up on the front end, right? So it's important that you're taking advantage of back end opportunities like the back end search terms, right? If a keyword is not mentioned in the front end of your listing, in your title, in your product description, in your bullet points, in your A+ content, it needs to be in the search term section behind your listing, right? And then if you guys are brand registered and you have A+ content, you need to be using the backend search term for all of the images that are featured within that A+ content, just to be indexing as much as possible. Relevancy is huge, guys, right? You're not just going to show up, without putting yourself in that situation. So it is crucial for Amazon that you have those keywords in there in order to index and, of course, rank. So I know I kind of blabbered on a little bit there. I do apologize for that. But really, to summarize, just what does it take to rank? It's pretty simple, right? Have a solid listing that solves the problem of the customer. That listing should be filled out fully. So you should have all 5 bullet points filled out. You should have all 6 images filled out. You should have a video in your listing if you are brand registered. If you are not brand registered, add more images in. Your title should be using all characters that are at your disposal, right? So for most of you, that's 250 characters. For some of you, that'll be a little bit less. But you need to use every single character that Amazon gives you. Your product description should be filled out. Even if you are brand registered, guys, product description needs to be filled out because to Amazon, it's counting that. It's counting the product description even if the customer doesn't see that. So it is really important that that is filled out. Your A+ content should be filled out. You should have back-end search terms filled out behind those images. You should have back-end search terms filled out behind the listing, right? So at the end of the day, that's really what it takes is put together a quality product, put together a quality listing, and make sure everything's filled out. That's really the summary just as to how to rank the best for Amazon's A9 algorithm. Now, of course, there's different strategies that go into play when it comes to Amazon's A9 algorithm, but quite honestly, focusing on the basics here, focusing on these factors, that is how you are going to be successful with Amazon's A9 algorithm. So thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And let us know if you have any questions. Reach out to us. We're always here to help. So thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I know that is a lot of information, and in order to really benefit from all that, it probably would help to see it written down. And so what we did was we published an in-depth article on Amazon's A9 algorithm, and we put that on our blog at Turnkey. So if you head over to blog.turnkeyproductmanagement.com/A9, then you should be able to get access to that, or just it should be in the show notes. There should be a nice link to that, or just head over to our blog and you'll find it. Yeah, so that's where you can get all the factors in written form, and it should be a lot easier to digest and really try to use those factors to your advantage in your business. So I hope that you learned a lot and hope that you guys rank as successfully as possible. And again, if you need more support in like implementing that or how to take advantage of that, how to take advantage of the A9 algorithm, we'd love to help you out. You can head over to turnkeyproductmanagement.com/apply and see what services that you qualify for. There's different ways that we can help you to do that. So just want to say thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast or leave us a review if you haven't already. We really appreciate that. And thank you so much for listening.